Hey everybody, so I'm back in New York. It's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to everybody who is a mother out there. You're awesome and strong, and we couldn't be here without you, literally. Um, so I wanted to do a little video now that I'm back in New York on what it was like traveling as a trans person, particularly somebody who is in the beginning stages of transitioning physically with testosterone, and specifically what it's like traveling trans in a southern environment. Because I was in Charleston, South Carolina, where many would probably assume that it's very conservative. In a lot of ways it is. So if you follow my channel, or if you feel like going back, you can check out a little video I did about the airport. Going there was a absolute breeze. Coming back was a breeze with a minor heart attack. So basically what ended up happening was that I got randomly selected for the first time ever. Like, he swears, the security guy at TSA Pre was like, "You've been literally randomly selected." And my heart just literally stopped, and I was so, anxious about what was about to happen that I just sort of, blurted out that I was like, "Sorry, it might be the mesh, my binding, I'm trans, and he was like, "Seriously, don't even worry about it. You're literally just a random selection. We just have to, have you get your hands done." And I'm like, "Okay." So I go over to this other security guard who's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And in 5 seconds, he swipes my hands, put it in a machine. He's like, "Okay, you're good to go." And that was it. So basically, I outed myself and panicked for absolutely no reason. So I guess my word of advice is, if you do get randomly selected, if they will blatantly say, "You've been randomly selected," not that something has gone off, just ride it. Don't say anything. Don't panic at all, because it's going to be fine. It's going to be over in literally 2 minutes. And I kind of felt a little silly and stupid and kind of dysphoric after, just because I outed myself for no reason. I could have just gone about my business. While I was in Charleston, it was a very unique experience for me. One being that I would say it was the first time I guess a first time really ever, where I spent a lot of time with my family since I've transitioned. And not only that, but in a place where I was meeting a lot of new people who didn't know me. Some of those people didn't know me physically, but knew about me and knew that I am transitioning, or others who just blatantly didn't know me at all. And so I just thought it was a really interesting experience to see who would, how people were reading me, who would sort of go out of their way to try and figure it out. Some faces where there would be, puzzled and clearly, unsure. And then it was a totally other element, being with my family. Because, for me, the biggest thing on the trip, actually, was this, awesome family dinner we had with, another family who's practically, an attached family to us, just by connection with my sister. And it was an amazing dinner, don't get me wrong, and it was wonderful meeting them. This has nothing to do with them. I just want to purely focus, on my family and the story of this waiter. So this was, a graduation celebration dinner at a nice restaurant. I was dressed to the nines in a suit from earlier in the evening and afternoon being at my sister's graduation. And I actually feel like I look the most passable when I'm, in a suit, particularly, a three-piece black suit, or, actually, wait, I think I was in a navy suit. Okay, I was in a navy suit, but in the black suit I feel a little bit even more passable just because it's, like, ultra slimming, so it really just hides everything. But the point is that, like, I walked in this restaurant, and from the get-go, the waiter referred to me with male pronouns, and it was, like, really nice and really exciting, and just, like, felt good and, like, very normal and whatever. But throughout the dinner and conversation, while he was present with these other people who had not, some of them who had not met me but knew that I was transitioning, my parents were obviously accidentally, like, slipping and would misgender me. And I realized that it was impacting me, like, significantly more than it normally would. Especially because it was kind of, like, in an awkward situation where I couldn't really just, like, be like, hey, like, you're, because normally if they misgender me, I'm like, male, guy, he, like, I will just continue to sort of repeat and make it very known that they are misgendering me and that it's upsetting me. And they want to properly gender me, and they're getting much better, which is, like, in part, I firmly believe, because I say something every time. And in this situation, I didn't want to, it's not rude for me to correct somebody, but it was just kind of like, I don't know, it just seemed like a new situation, not really the right setting to, like, get into it. And so, you just have, like, this waiter coming in and out referring to me as sir. He's probably confused. I'm wondering if, I didn't know, actually, that everybody who was at the table who I hadn't met knew that I was trans before, like, and during this dinner. I found out, like, way later. So that was part of what was causing all this panic, was like, oh my god, my parents are, like, misgendering me, and, like, the waiter's properly gendering me, and, like, I'm sitting here feeling, like, uncomfortable and weird and kind of, like, embarrassed because I don't want to, like, confuse people, and I also feel like it's really hard for other people to, like, get on board and understand what my proper pronouns are and, like, how I want to be referred to and just about me in general if my closest family members are misgendering me while people who literally haven't met me are properly gendering me. You see what I mean? I mean, I'm not blaming, like, my parents, like, they're getting used to everything still, obviously. It's a big change. So, slips are going to happen. I just wanted to bring up the fact that, for me, it was even harder, like, in this situation. I'm wondering if any of you have ever, been in a situation similar to that, how you deal with it, how you reacted, how it made you feel. Excuse me, I'm getting over a sinus infection that I, of course, contracted on this vacation. But, yeah, let me know in the comments below. In terms of, like, going about and traveling, it was interesting. Sometimes I would walk around and I would be, like, hyper aware and paranoid of how excuse me, people would be viewing, like, me, and I just, sometimes I felt like I was blatantly being stared at, and sometimes I was like, oh, okay, is it, like, because I look good, or is it because they're not really sure what gender I am, or because I look weird? My mind was just, like, spinning, and I would totally have, like, moments of panic. And then there would be other times where, I'd be walking around, like, super proud and even just by myself, like, shopping on King Street and feeling like, totally, this is who I am, I feel comfortable, I feel safe. I even, like, went on a late night walk by myself because, like, in Charleston, you can do things like that. And we were staying downtown, like, right around the corner from my sister, and, like, that's all college town, so, I don't know, I just didn't really feel like something bad was going to happen. I mean, it very well could have, that's the, scary thing If all it would take for me to run into, a group of anybody who, or even just one person who wanted to, pick a fight because of my gender, how I'm presenting, who knows? But, I was able to just walk around with this element of confidence, and it was kind of really exciting being that, the world is really small, and I always seem to find myself, like, running into people I know or anywhere, particularly in New York. I mean, at this point, I've lived in several different areas of New York. It's really hard for me to walk around and not see somebody I know. And so it was kind of exciting to go to this totally different place that, I hadn't been to Charleston in like 2 years. So, it was like nobody knew me. It was almost like I could have been, not that I obviously lead my life as stealth, but when I don't know people or I'm just passing somebody on the street, I'm not screaming out that I'm trans to everybody. It's not like I'm protesting, I'm on vacation. So it's really it was cool to have this new experience for me of like being able to be kind of stealth at certain times, especially because I had the voice drop like right before vacation. That seems to actually be sticking, although it's still fluctuating. It's not, some off, like a lot of the trip, it was significantly deeper than it is now, but it's still deep. So yeah, I was finding that I was realizing also that my voice really has been a big component in what allows me to pass. Not saying at all that if your voice isn't deeper or hasn't deepened at all, that you can't, because that's incorrect. That is not what I'm saying at all. For me, as if you follow my channel, you know that like I really want to be able to pass as male, and for me personally, I feel because I look so young and I have other things like not really like like I have facial hair, but not really visible facial hair unless you're like really looking for it and stuff like that. So I have a lot of things that to me personally I'm insecure about, and I feel like feminize me and make it really hard for me to be read as male. But my voice is like one of those things that I'm like, oh yes, like that can help me. And I was actually realizing like I felt like that helped me a lot through the trip. I certainly got misgendered at different times, but I never really felt like disrespected. I definitely did feel like I got some looks and stuff, but again, I really don't know what the looks are for, so I'm not going to just go and assume things, especially because people in Charleston are super, super nice. And if you've been to Charleston, you know that it's not, like a super gay, LGBTQ AI like area, at least not openly. It's definitely not New York. Like, you notice the difference immediately. It's not like that's a huge part of the culture. Obviously, there's, queer people and people of all genders and sexualities who are roaming around Charleston, particularly, I'm sure, visiting Charleston because it's beautiful and the people are beautiful and the food is great and the culture is great. I mean, there's a lot of things to love about Charleston. Pretty much the only thing not to like about Charleston is humidity, and that the summer gets like absurdly hot and also humid. So yeah, overall it was a pretty good experience. So I would say if you are somebody who, particularly you're new to physically transitioning and you're like really nervous about going on a trip and traveling, particularly if you're headed a little more south, or maybe even like Midwest, blah, blah, blah. I mean, anywhere that's not, like a very dense populated area of the LGBTQ community, such as New York, particularly the city, and you're worried, I would say, yeah, there's definitely things to be aware of and to mentally prepare yourself for, but it was definitely a way better experience than I thought it would be. I would say to keep an open mind and just prepare yourself. And if you can, travel with other people and just, do what you can to take the safety precautions. Make sure that you check in with your gut. If you go somewhere and you're like, oh man, this does not feel safe. I feel like it's seedy, or everybody's kind of staring at me weird, or whatever it is, go with your gut reaction. But just have an open mind and have fun and try. It's so hard not to be hyper aware of everything, of every stare, of how you're presenting, if you're dysphoric. I mean, I had a really dysphoric day while I was there, and I was I went and this is before I got sick. I had to work out at the gym for 2 hours to be able to remotely function. But, just make sure you have things that you do to make yourself feel better and to push yourself through. Make sure that somebody always knows where you are as a safety precaution. So, for example, when I went on my walk, I told my parents, I was like, I'm going kind of this direction on a walk for a little bit, just in case. That way, God forbid something does happen or you're feeling unsafe, you've got somebody to back you up, or you have somebody to call if you're feeling uncomfortable, or be with you, just for safety and everything. But this ended up actually being a really long video, but I don't actually regret it, because this is probably one of the more important videos I've done so far, and something that I am really happy to be able to talk about. I'm also a little delirious because I'm on super strong antibiotics. So it's Game of Thrones night, and I'm going to go check that out. But have an awesome night. I hope, again, all the moms out there had a really great Mother's Day, and I will catch you later. Have a good night.